Welcome back to your Daily Dose. My name is Robert here with my every so often pal Gavin in the Daily Dose world, full-time pal, of course, in the world. But you do a great job. I just want to thank you for popping up in the threads from time to time and just saying, "Hey, this really got me. I was really thinking about this." And I thank you, A, for watching, and B, for saying I've got something to add to it. It's nice to see you again.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. I like watching your stuff. I keep track. It's always insightful and timely. You have interesting people. Topics are from the heart, and the yes and the improv, the writing, the cinema therapy. It's all so valuable. I get everything you do, especially the baseball documentaries above all. So I love baseball, and so that connects with me. So I keep track of what you're doing. I'm not too involved in that because I got a lot of stuff I'm involved in here, but it's great programs. And I contacted you last week to see if you wanted to talk about fear, and so something just hit me. I mean, fear is something I've thought about a lot with Parkinson's. I think it affects everyone to different degrees, but Parkinson's being multiple diseases or multiple strands, so we're not all affected the same way. But it feels like fear is such a part and parcel of this disease. It feels like it's our body's protection, fight or flight kicking in. So it's almost like it's part of the disease, whether that's by design or not, or whether that's sort of secondary. But fear is it's so evident. I don't think it's talked about enough.
I love that you bring that up, and I don't know if this was part of maybe response to some of what I put forward. I got a chance to present with Dr. Indu Subranian out at ATMRD, and her and Bradley McDaniels did that paper on uncertainty and tolerance, and that was their phrase for it, which in my terms meant fear of the unknown. That was what we talked a lot in the improv sense, because in improv, that's exactly what we're playing with, is the idea of the fear of the unknown. And it really becomes diagnostic quickly how often people will not spend time in the unknown. And I think especially in Parkinson's, because you're right, you're hyper vigilant about when's the next shoe going to drop? When's the next symptom going to show up? How is this going to manifest and impact my life in so many different ways? I think you're right. Fear is something that needs to be explored more, and they're certainly scratching the surface. But I'd love to hear more of your thoughts about how it impacts you.
Well, thanks. I've got some more. So the way what you're describing, I think you can almost split it into two pieces. There's the part you're talking about, and the fear of the unknown, the uncertainty, which I would describe more as anxiety.
Okay.
And then there's the fear, which is body manifest. So it's in the freezing, even the tremor. Um, you could argue stems from a fear. Perhaps it certainly increases with stress. But the freezing of gait, I describe that as that's a bodily type fear, and that's how I describe fear is something that you can feel in your body versus anxiety, which is in the mind. But they're two definitely distinct um, things that affect us. I think what got me to start thinking about this was obviously for a long time. I've now had Parkinson's 18 years. The last 10 or so, I've had this freezing of gait for, in general, just bradykinesia. For the last 10 years or so, that I've experimented with and explored. And when you do that, you're constantly trying to figure out what's happening inside your brain, inside your body, why this is happening to you, why do you freeze in certain instances and not others, what's locking you up, and you discover some things about yourself, and that's the most fascinating thing to me is uncovering or feel like you're uncovering why your mind, why your brain wants you to not move, to why does it freeze in certain instances and not others, and how you can get out of it and ways around it and emotions you can generate and all these tricks that people use to get out of it. So what it shows me is the fear, it's not completely ungrounded because it's trying to my sense is the brain trying to protect the body from a fall. At least in my case, that's definitely the case. Maybe other people freeze for different reasons, so that's a good thing. But it's overprotective in that, like, it's I think it's trying to conserve a limited amount of dopamine. So it's telling me, look, sit, don't get up and do anything stupid. Stay still, don't hurt yourself, and we're gonna lock you. We're gonna put the brakes on you so that
Mhm.
you don't do anything stupid. But yet I have still have this capability to move, at least to some degree, for some amount of time. And so what once you if you experiment with that enough, you realize most of the time it's the brain being overprotective. A lot, I get the protection. I appreciate the protection from my own stupidity, which sometimes I need. But at the same time, I want to be able to move when I want to be able to move, and freezing in the certain instances like doorways, changing surfaces, crowds, these things like that. Like there seems no reason for that. The brain has its reasons,
Yeah.
but they don't seem like practical reasons. So what I discovered was, there's this fear, and so oftentimes ungrounded, and you can work your way through it. And it doesn't help me a ton in Parkinson's. I mean, there's certain instances like I'm able to get out of things or unfreeze, which is nice, but it's nothing groundbreaking. But when you look at it from back up and look at it, it's like, well, wait a minute. The brain, the mind, the brain, they seem to be overprotective. Why is that? Why? What is this fear of trying to protect me? Why with Parkinson's do I tense up, shrink up? Why is it telling me to don't get involved, sit still, be scared, don't get hurt, um, freeze or flight, get away or run instead of actively engage. It's not our nature to actively engage in something. Maybe that's not anyone's nature, but it's really driving us away from the things that we need to be doing most of all. It's really counterproductive, and the things we need to be doing are engaging and social and um, challenging ourselves and all these things that our body's telling us don't do that out of fear. Oftentimes it's ungrounded. So, to kind of wrap this up about fear, it made me look at things differently in all of life and say, well, if this, why has fear been, um, why has fear been so unjustly telling me what to do all my life, not just with Parkinson's, but why does it tell me? And you present this well with your improv. I mean, what a great way to break free of the fear, break free of the chains. And it's just like improv that goes all across life. And why? What are we fearing? Like, what's the anxiety, or what's this stage fright, outright fear that we have, keeping us from doing the things that we would like to do, we want to do, and then we good for us. It just doesn't make sense how we allow fear to to so to have so much space in places that it doesn't belong.
I love everything you said there. I was taking a couple notes because you said so many things that ticked with me along the way. I like your expansion of the idea of fear. And what came to mind was the idea of fear becoming, going from say, like an alarm dog type of thing, or a watchdog, put it that way, into an alarm dog that's constantly hyper vigilant. And now it's driving the machine as opposed to informing the machine. And you're right, when fear takes over, everything gets colored, right? The whole world looks and feels differently. And I very much like the way you talked about the body manifestation based on fear's effect, as well as the tips and tricks that are very individualized for people to unfreeze. My dad, I remember very interestingly, about, I'd say 8 to 10 years ago, when he was having a lot of freezing, his trick was to fall to one knee. That would you do that, okay, right? And it would unlock the neurology by the change in position, the change in eyes. We now do it more safely because we had him wearing knee pads. I was so worried he's going to shatter a patella, um, that now if I can stand him up, because he's not very ambulatory, but we'll do PT exercises where we'll look in different directions and we'll point towards things, and that can help rewire too, so he doesn't have to, have a safe fall, I guess, because it would really worry people when they'd see him going to one knee, and the assisted living would say, "Oh, he's falling." It's like, I know what you're saying, and then they'd get all their paperwork. It's like, no. So that's fear, like manifesting other people's fears. We can see,
Yeah,
I'm guessing when you're going through your fear, if people don't like the way you're acting or reacting to it, you probably see it spark fear in them too. Is that true?
definitely. Yeah, that case you relate with your dad, I can definitely relate to that. It's a whole symphony of things that I go through when I'm in an off period to try to move about, and it's the most ridiculous looking thing, but it's beautiful because your brain you have come up with ways to work around um, the lock that the brain has put on the body, and like you're saying, no, I'm going to figure out a way to get around this, and there's endless ways. Some work today that won't work tomorrow, or didn't work yesterday, and it's a constantly changing rule book.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that. It sounds weird, but like I enjoy that aspect of like I love baseball, love competition, and it's a way of competing against myself, against my brain of like, look, I can do this safely, and I know I can do it, so I'm going to figure out a way. And overcoming the fear of what other people may think or how you may look, um, or what 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 it makes it what makes you think of what it makes you think of yourself. It's not. It used to be sort of degrading and embarrassing, and especially around my kids. But now it's just I still don't want to. The kids are teenagers, so I still don't enjoy doing it much around them. I know it's embarrassing, but you do what you got to do, and there's just so many ways around it. But the fear, that's a good example of you don't let the fear hold you back anymore. And I think if you want to take it to the next step of how this manifests to, or how this translates to how we interact with other people about the disease, how we live with the disease, how we think about it, and how we let it impact us. So, if you can take this perception of fear, that like you can look at it and say, well, look, it's the fear is there's something to it, but it should not be so severe. So how does this, is this something that goes across all my aspects of life? And yes, the answer to that is yes. And it makes you look at the perceived fears in a different way. And for example, like so now I've just started a project in Uganda with my buddy Kabugo Hannington, and what we're doing is growing Mucuna parens, which is an alternative treatment um, for Parkinson's. It's like Cinnamon, it's like levodopa, but it's grown naturally, and we can do it cheaply and you know broadly and across Uganda and across Africa, hopefully as
Where
an
they don't have
alternative.
access to the
Yeah,
things that we're used to here.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so, why wouldn't I do something something like that? Would have has held me back till now. And now, why not invest a little money on something like that? And like, I'm not scared anymore thinking about what my future is going to be. And I'll have enough somehow, some way. I'll figure out a way to make ends meet, and I always have. And I believe in my ability to 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 take care of myself for the time being, and I think somehow, some way, I'll figure it out. So, what's holding me back to actually, for years, I've been telling other people they need to do something about this. Well, I'm that someone. It finally dawned on me, and that I can do. Even 18 years in, I can do more things than I thought I could, and that's the sort of challenge and stimulation that you really need with Parkinson's anyway.
I agree, because the disease has this terrible way, if you let it, of telling you you're less than, you're worth less, you can't do things. And what I'm hearing you say is that you have transformed your thinking and therefore your actions into things that before weren't even on your radar. And now, by saying yes and to them, you are expanding yourself beyond what you imagined. And I also liked what you said about looking at Parkinson's almost like a puzzle, the way you would try to figure out in baseball terms, why am I having trouble with the curve, or why, the way you would figure out something physically or, mentally in the game. You're figuring that out with Parkinson. What's my daily challenge? And you embrace it rather than, it sounds like, get overwrought with the, oh no, what are these feelings? Am I accurate in that regard?
100%. I'm not always successful at it, but that's definitely the idea. Is to take this what I've referred to lately as uh, the the quest to become indomitable. Um,
Ooh,
and
ooh,
that I like that word myself. You have to might have to look it up to get a true definition, but
good.
this sense that, and it's something probably I don't know I can ever arrive at, but something ideal to chase is not letting anything get to you. Have this will, have this spirit about you that nothing can defeat you. It's going to knock you down constantly. I'm not going to beat Parkinson's, but I don't want it to ever beat me. And that's more than anything. That's what I want to leave my kids with is because they're not going to get a lot in the will, not a lot of money to be left with them. But when I pass, like if they can inherit that sense of indomitability, that sense of um, nothing in life can defeat them. They just continue to get back up and hopefully with a smile on their face and say, "Let's do it again. Let's go. Let's keep going, constantly." And so, um, I, I recently thought the best question to ask at the time of diagnosis now, and I've told people different things on this, but now I'm kind of settled on this is the best thing to do at diagnosis is not the best question. The most important question to ask is, okay, how do I become indomitable? There's
Mm,
all these things you're going to have to learn how to do, but if you can set yourself on a path to become indomitable, indefeatable by Parkinson's, and it's hard, but it's very possible. I don't like the alternative of giving in at some point. So why not chase this uh, constant? You know, why not chase the human spirit? And I think you talk about that too. But this human spirit that's within us that can be developed, can be found, can be developed, and can be um, you can attach yourself to it that become permanent. And to me, that's the way. That's the best way to handle this. The best way to handle Parkinson's at the very beginning is just say, look, no matter what happens, it's going to be hard, and it's a process to get there. But no matter what you go through, you're strong enough to handle it.
yeah.
We're strong in our human spirit, and fortunately, the resources we have in this country and many in more well-off countries, you can make a go of it, and that's
Yeah.
all I'm trying to do.
Well, and again, I guess part of that I hear is gratitude, acceptance, because letting go of what was or what was expected is not easy. We all have our expectations of where life is headed, what we'll have time to do, what we're supposed to be when we're a certain age. And one of the things improv does teach, you're right, is acceptance. That the quicker we move on to the truth of the reality of the situation, the more power we have. That the longer we hold on to expectations or hopes or dreams that aren't there, the more disparate and spread out we become. So you've concentrated what you have, giving you more in this moment because you say this is my space. Maybe I'm not as broad as I was, but in this forum I'm still, it sounds like, content. I would say happy, thoughtful, curious, all things that point toward a life that sounds very, very worth living.
Still a very rich life to be had, and everyone's got a different path to get there. It's
Yeah,
about
that's
finding
right.
yourself, discovering who you are, what you need, and what's going to provide it. And after a while, you sort of fall into these things and understand yourself better. And at no point in life have I understood myself better nor felt better about myself. And to an outsider, they'd look at me and say they can't understand why. Why would this guy be happy? Why does he feel good about himself? When in my time of off when I'm off medication, I look, I'm pitiful. But that's not how I see myself. And I was gonna say so. I forgot what I was gonna say, but you know how that goes.
Well,
But
you hit a big word right there and a tough one, which is pitiful. And I think that's one of the problems with Parkinson's is they look at people with Parkinson's as pitiful. They have pity for them. And if you, as the person with Parkinson's, let that land on you and wear it like a cloak, you might get some sympathy, but that's not nearly as good as compassion with you being active, right? You
right,
know, yeah. So
yeah, and you get it. You know exactly what I'm trying to say. I wish, you can't control other people, or you have to let people do what they got to do and live their life. But I wanted to come on and suggest, or at least talk about my experience with this stuff, and tell people maybe who aren't as far along. Like it seems daunting, but you grow into this life. So it gets harder, but so do you. And you figure out, if you believe in yourself, and self belief is a big part of it, and developing that. And I remember what I was going to say. So all these things, I say these things take a while to develop, and most of the time they do. But if you have a teacher, it's not going to take nearly as long. And I see
mm,
a lot of that now. Mentoring, uh, teaching people coming along after, like, what's worked for those who have more experience. And if you're a good coach, and if you find a good coach, and you're a coach and you're coachable, I coach on the side, and can't say enough about coachability. But if you're a coachable type person, you can develop much quicker than it took me or someone like me, because you pay attention and you listen and you trust people what they're telling you, and you can learn all these things about yourself and about the disease and about life in general much quicker if you want to. And who wouldn't want to make this disease tolerable and livable? Because the alternative for me is it's it's I forget the word. It's not an option. Like, I don't, if I did not have this way of looking at things, it'd be pretty miserable. It would get me down. There's too much about this disease, about these challenges, that it'd be too overwhelming, too daunting. But look at the perspective, like you said, the gratitude, belief in yourself, just like the 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 desire to see things as a challenge rather than a threat. That's fear too.
yeah,
So anyway, you get what I'm saying. One more thing I want to point out is, the freezing. It's really comparable to the yips in baseball, or the yips in sports, or stage fright. It's a very similar type deal where your body locks up and you can't perform the similar type of movements that you used to perform automatically. And so
right.
when you get that lockup, and that's the mind and the body kind of working against you, it's the same thing as the yips. If someone doesn't know what the yips is, it's in baseball, for example. It's the catcher unable to throw the ball back to the pitcher, which he's done his whole life. Now it's in his mind, and because it's his body's, like, to me, in my way of looking at it, it's his body saying, "Don't do this move." So it's trying to stop you from doing it, while your mind is saying, "No, I got to throw it back to the pitcher." And so you get this mechanical chaos, and
Yeah.
you can't do what you've always done your whole life. And so it's very similar to what people with Parkinson's, I think, go through primarily with freezing, but in other areas too.
I do too. And the concept of the yips and the freezes in that regard is fascinating. I always I think the pitcher's name was Mark Wohlers, a Braves pitcher in the mid to late 90s, who went from being one of the most dominant closers to not being able to throw it over the plate in like the course of a couple days, and it never came back. And he was, I think, late 20s. There was no physical reason for it, but he had one of the great crashes of that, and that was that. And people know it in golf, the yips when a putter, they can't quite get that stroke right. So it goes, like you said, with Parkinson's too, especially with gait, but also with the mental, cognitive, emotional side. We can get emotional yips. As you mentioned, fear can go from something that is kind of a distant voice to suddenly driving. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
why is fear suddenly doing that? in our world, of course, that's why we play with fear. We go ahead and allow fear to be in the front seat in a safe and brave space and then question and diagnose and say, what was that about? What was I like when I was letting fear drive? Is that really active? And that I hope is a unique thing that people can take with them. So yeah, but I can't thank you enough for all of this, man. Oh, go ahead. You had something else, please.
One quick story that's incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
What you said, I think you'll like this story. So I work with each year I try to work with a college baseball team in the area. I've been working with this school called Mountain View the last couple of years. We had a guy on the team, a pitcher. Well, probably had two of them experiencing this yip to different degrees, experiencing these yips, and it's horrible, man, because they're good pitchers, but they go out. They can do it in the bullpen or in practice, but you get them out there on the mound in a game, and everything falls apart. I mean, it's horrible for a pitcher to go through. This is his dream to play baseball, and he gets out there and he doesn't understand what's happening. People don't know enough about it. So having known what I know, I got to work with him a little bit this year, and working with a person like this, it's not about getting them back to normal because a lot, like you said, a lot of people with the they may become never normal again. I mean, it's a deep psychological thing, and it's how do you stop that moment of doubt from creeping back in your head? You can't. And the second that doubt comes back in, there you go. You're right back down the rabbit hole again. So anyway, this guy, to varying degrees, like he made some strides, but getting back to the way he was, the way he wanted to be, it didn't happen this year. May not ever get that chance. But I tell you what, this guy was the best teammate. Like he didn't let the fear and the just the horrific year he had going through all that. He didn't let that stop him. The second he came off the mound, he was again just a great teammate, probably the best teammate on the whole team. That's amazing to me. It's like you can like go experience what he did with fear and like disappointment and embarrassment and shame. I'm sure there's a lot of shame, and then to come off the field and just be so supportive of his teammates
Yeah.
blew me away. It was something that I'll never forget. And so, what a great example to show like, look, he may never get past this. It's tragic, but he's going to take this experience that he had and he's going to make something good out of it by using that to become more, give the support to all his teammates that maybe he would have liked to have had as a pitcher would have helped him. He's going to now be that supportive person to everyone else on the team and maybe other people that may have similar issues coming up like him. And like he uses that really terrible situation to become a better person, better player, better teammate, and just like what a beautiful example. And so, it's something that people are doing with Parkinson's too. Is like exploring fear, and saying, "Look, I'm not going to let this fear. It may get me, it may stop me, but I'm not going to. It's not going to be something. I'm going to make something good out of it somehow, some way. I'm going to take it and create something better than what it's done to me, um, than what it's put me through."
Yeah.
So that's part of the indomitable spirit, I guess.
I love the use of Indomitable. I love you have it there, and it's a part of who you are and a part of what you're giving. I think people, I heard you mention earlier, giving this to people, especially early on their journey, because if you only take the story of Parkinson's that maybe a certain, that your fear has, and maybe, God forbid, you've gone on Google to see the worst case, and you as a person early in your diagnosis are seeing yourself 25 years down the road in a much different place today. It's like you've missed 25 years of life and opportunity and on all those things. So yeah, staying present is a big part of all that. Well, shoot, this has been awesome, man. I will, as always, post this, send it your way, and we'll send it out there to get people's thoughts. And whenever you have things, please bring them forward because they're important. Your voice is important, and that you keep sharing with me and you keep checking in means a lot.
Hey, thanks a lot. You're my personal microphone to the world. That's very valuable, and that's like you can't say enough about that service you provide.
You're welcome, and yeah, share it to everybody who you think needs to hear it. And if anybody hearing this says, "I want to share like Gavin does," hit me up. Let's get more voices out there. Amplify the voices to accelerate the cure. That's what we're here for. Gavin,
Amen,
thanks
brother.
again. All right.
Amen, brother. Thanks,
Amen.
Robert.
Peace out.